What's up everyone, Alex here. Welcome to the Big Kahuna, where we find out the best game of 2023 as voted by you, the fans, alongside my picks. Unlike previous years, we are going to rank all 10 Game of the Year nominees. And I'm going to tell you this now, my list of nominees is going to be different than yours because there are some games that I just haven't played at all that you nominated. We have a lot of games to talk about, and to kick things off, we have two amazing guests who would like to share with you their picks for their Game of the Year.
Hi everybody, this is David over at the channel davidvinc, and thank you so much, Alex, for having me over to talk about my favorite RPG that was released this year. And there are so many good ones that were released. Believe me, this was a very hard decision, but at the end of the day, I had to go with a tried and true, old favorite, Star Ocean 2 remake. I first played this game back when I was in high school, whenever it came out in like 1998. I think it was like a junior or something in high school, and I loved it there. It was easily the best Star Ocean game that was ever made and ever since made. So of course, whenever they went back to it, they chose to remake the best one, and boy, did they do it well. They didn't just take it and then say, okay, we're gonna put an HD 2D, slap it on a new coat of paint and call it a day. No. They really did it up nicely here. They did complete rebalancing. They added all sorts of new treasures in. They added in some new secrets, some new private actions. They rebalanced all of the characters. So some characters who were previously useless, like some of the mages and Ernest, aren't all that useless anymore. You could use really whoever you would like in your party. The world is still just so spectacular, so easy to get lost in. The story is just a classic. And remember, this comes from a time whenever RPGs didn't try to bog you down with endless blabbing on. They just say what they need to say and they get to the point so you can get out and explore the world, beat some bitches up, and have a good time. And that's what this entire game is about, just having a good time. And boy, I do believe that you will with this one. Thank you again, Alex, for having me on to just gush a little bit about Star Ocean 2. I loved it. If this is the future of remakes, I am here for it.
What's up guys, Zyger here, and when Alex asked me to talk about my favorite video game of the year, it honestly didn't take me too long. Because sure, there are a lot of great games that came out this year, but I think the greatest was Octopath Traveler 2. This just blew me away. I was so excited to see that a sequel to Octopath Traveler was coming, with 8 new characters and new paths. The fact that there's a day-night cycle with different path actions for the day and night really made the gameplay a lot more fun, and I love the addition of latent powers. Latent powers were a way to expand the power of your character in ways that weren't just like flat damage increases. They were actually creative and went along with what the character's abilities were supposed to be. And I have to say that this game does the intangibles well too. The voice acting is superb. I especially love the Particio character. His voice actor is fantastic. And the graphics are incredibly beautiful. You can really see it when you see Throne walk into the city and just see that superb HD 2D motif. And I can't say that there's ever been any more beautiful HD 2D scenes than the ones in Hikari's scenario. So Octopath Traveler 2 is awesome. Great story. They added a few new ways where the characters interact with each other. This is a fantastic RPG, maybe one of the best in the last decade, and honorable nod and honorable mention to Sea of Stars, but I say Octopath Traveler 2.
Thank you very much to David and Zygor for sharing their picks. You can find David on his channel at youtube.com/davidvinc and Zygor on his channel at youtube.com/Zygor. Starting to count down off with your choice, your 10th best game of 2023 is Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Chris says that the reason why they nominated Spider-Man 2 was because it just played and flowed so good. And Friends and Games on YouTube added that the sheer ecstasy from swinging and gliding is just insane, and that they could spend hours and hours traversing the playground this game provides. And my pick for the 10th best game of 2023 is Fire Emblem Engage. I never expected Fire Emblem Engage's story to top the behemoth narrative of Fire Emblem Three Houses, but what surprised me was how much of Fire Emblem Engage went back to basics and reintroduced concepts that we hadn't seen in the series for a while. The level design is just a ton better than what it was in more recent games, combining well-crafted terrain with multi-tiered areas that affected your unit's accuracy and the like. And to top that all off, with being an incredible anniversary title and being able to play with some of our favorite heroes across the series' entire run, and you've got a game that definitely differentiates itself from its predecessors in a good way. Next is your 9th best game of 2023, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Via Marie nominated Super Mario Bros. Wonder because they had so much fun from start to finish that it leapt to the top of their favorite 2D Mario games. My 9th best game of 2023 is A Space for the Unbound. This game didn't quite make it in the community nominations, but out of all the games I've played this year, A Space for the Unbound really touched me deeply. Set in the 90s in Southeast Asia, this classic adventure game combined many of the things I experienced when I was young and living in that part of the world, with many memories we collectively shared. The fighting game boom of the 90s, and the simpler provincial lifestyle that's unlike anywhere else in the world, are just some of the things you'll experience playing this game. And yes, this choice is deeply personal, but its message and story are universal, and something I highly recommend that you check out. Moving right along, your choice for 8th best game of 2023 is Chained Echoes. Hexcrit said that they nominated Chained Echoes because they felt that the game was a masterpiece, from a solo developer no less, and an immense feat that not many can pull off. Waterweed the show adds that Chained Echoes is a staggering achievement, whose mechanics look bravely forward as much as its aesthetics look lovingly backward at the JRPGs that defined our youth. And my pick for the 8th best game of 2023 is The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Placing Zelda at 8th on my list shouldn't be seen as a slight of any sort because of how incredible this year has been for games. In fact, I could have sworn that it would have won over Baldur's Gate 3 for Game of the Year this year at other award shows. Nevertheless, Tears of the Kingdom actually managed to address many of my own personal complaints with Breath of the Wild, while also forging a new path forward with its innovative gameplay that truly made journeying through Hyrule fun despite its many perils. And that's not even talking about the many secrets it's hidden beneath the surface. And if you've played the game, you know what I'm talking about. Tears of the Kingdom is undoubtedly one of the best games of the year, and I'm so extremely pleased to have experienced it through. Next is your pick for the 7th best game of 2023, and that's going to Fire Emblem Engage. Logan nominated Fire Emblem Engage because while it's definitely less serious than its predecessor, its gameplay gave them the most fun they've had in a Fire Emblem game. They add that they grew to love this cast of lovable goobers over time. Engage doesn't beat out Three Houses as their favorite Fire Emblem on Switch, but Engage was still a thoroughly enjoyable time and that they'd recommend it to anyone. And my pick for my 7th best game of 2023 is Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I had a really difficult time choosing how to rank these two, but given how I wanted to celebrate the joy and wonder of video games in my list, and to be fair, Zelda had no shortage of that, Super Mario Bros. Wonder did the unthinkable by making me care about 2D Mario again. And no, I didn't like the Wii U 2D Mario game. That said, Super Mario Bros. Wonder made me smile and laugh with sheer joy, as it sent you off on a trippy tour of the Flower Kingdom and combating a version of Bowser that is literally a flying castle. Needless to say, I was elated and enraptured by its systems that I couldn't put it down, and many who have played the game will probably say the same thing. We've arrived at number 6, and your pick for the 6th best game of 2023 is Sea of Stars. publicly nominated Sea of Stars because the art style, the music, the engaging battle system, and Garl all set it apart from this year's other great releases. Ben calls Sea of Stars a passion project through and through, as well as commending it for having one of the most compelling secret endings in a JRPG. Michael adds that it's the kind of game that simply does not get made unless it's by a team of truly talented people who are as deeply in love with the genre as the core audience they're trying to reach with it. It is an unforgettable experience, and a veritable work of art. And my choice for the 6th best game of 2023 is Theorhythm Final Barline. The one thing that separates Final Barline from the rest is your ability to revel in the majesty and the musical history of the entire Final Fantasy series and beyond. While not as mechanically complex as Curtain Call, Final Barline added some noteworthy features from its predecessor's arcade release and created quite a smorgasbord of songs, characters, and locations that allowed it to recreate the stories and moments of every game through the use of song. I appreciate the sort of minimalism in its design, and it's only made it so approachable in bite-sized chunks that I still come back to it to this day. And if you consider yourself a hardcore fan of Final Fantasy music, you owe it to yourself to pick up this game. We're officially halfway through the list, and I have 2 more guests that would like to share with you their picks for Game of the Year.
Hey, it's Emily from Orbalology, and my Game of the Year nomination for the Backlog Battle Awards is for none other than Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. Now, while Future Redeemed is technically a DLC, it is its own self-contained package that has been one of my favorite gaming experiences from the entire year. Mamasoft did something really special here, calling back to the older titles in the Xeno universe, from the more recent Xenoblade Chronicles series on the Switch all the way back to Xenogears on the PS1. And it was so satisfying, even as a fairly new fan to the Xeno franchise, and kind of seeing how all the different threads connected in this DLC. Mamasoft has really become one of the best storytellers in all of JRPGs, and Future Redeemed was no exception. Future Redeemed was not only great because of its story and its callbacks to the previous entries, but also the gameplay and the unique dynamics that were newly introduced into this DLC package was also just top-notch. I really loved how they handled the exploration with the Explorer's Guide and the different leveling up systems that created a fresh spin. I really just loved exploring every nook and cranny of the world and seeing some familiar places along with some newer places and how they mixed together. And like with all the other previous Xenoblade entries, they also introduced a fresh spin to the combat system that I found a lot of fun. They streamlined everything and made all the different choices and how to customize your character a little less complicated. And I really like the new fusion system they introduced where 2 characters can have a combined attack together. And I just had so many feels reconnecting with so many of these characters from the prior games, seeing Shulk and Rex come back in a more mature form, and also being introduced to some new characters and some surprising twists along the way. Future Redeemed was such a delightful experience and a wonderful way to close off this chapter in the Xenoverse. And for all these reasons, that is why it is my personal Game of the Year.
2023 has been full of amazing JRPG releases, and when Alex asked me about my favorite, I had to pick Atelier Mary Remake. Koei Tecmo did such an amazing job with this one, and as someone who never played the original, all the quality of life improvements made someone like me who is fairly new to the franchise feel welcomed. You're trying to help Mary because let's just say she has been failing miserably at school and she desperately needs your help. So you'll be improving her alchemy skills, adventuring, collecting resources, progressing her friends' stories, unlocking new recipes, and enjoying the quirkiness behind the overall plot. The synthesis mechanic is very easy and the turn-based combat is as well. That is if you choose to go with the easy difficulty, but you can still make it a challenge and go with a higher difficulty level if that's what you like. Atelier Mary Remake also has different endings, so you can expect multiple playthroughs, and the added unlimited mode is perfect if you don't like being chased with deadlines, but keep in mind that you still have to be careful with the deadlines attached to friend requests and the quests that you pick up at the tavern. When I first discovered Atelier Mary Remake through the trailers, I was a bit worried. I was like, how cozy is it gonna be? But then in my review, I ended up calling it the coziest JRPG of 2023, and I had an absolute blast playing it. If you're new to the Atelier franchise and not sure where to start, I highly recommend that you check this one out. Thank you, Alex, for having me and for sharing the Backlog battle stage with me. Until next time, stay bubbly.
Thank you very much to Orbalology and Miss Bubbles for sharing their picks. You can find Orbalology at youtube.com/orbalology, and Miss Bubbles on her channel at youtube.com/missbubbles. We're moving on to the top 5 games of 2023, and your 5th best game of 2023 is Star Ocean: The Second Story R. Liz nominated The Second Story R because the original was their favorite game of all time, and that Gem Drops did a fantastic job with the remake. The updates made the game feel fresh and modern, while still retaining the same charm, feel, and identity of the original. And the rearranged music is absolutely fantastic. This is how you do a remake. And my 5th best game of 2023 is Chained Echoes. One of the reasons why I started compiling lists of games coming out each month is so that I can easily remind people of games that have come out. So when I opened the nomination polls, Chained Echoes was one of those games that I thought of that people should remember, especially given how it came out so late last year. Chained Echoes is a mammoth undertaking, created by one Matthias Linda, and is undoubtedly one of the year's best games. Chained Echoes is an uncompromising game, with tons of great new ideas that I'd love to see iterated and enhanced in future titles, along with a fantastic story that still got people talking about to this very day. It's unique in that it doesn't have leveling or traditional experience points, and thanks to the many updates it's had over the year, it's just gotten better and better. That's not even talking about the wonderful soundtrack by Eddie Marianakro. This is absolutely a must-play JRPG that you gotta play next, if you haven't yet. Our unanimous winner for the 4th best game of 2023 is Final Fantasy XVI. Many of you have a lot to say about this game and proclaimed how this is absolutely deserving of its inclusion in this list. Alexander drops a truth bomb by stating that while the game tries too hard to be like a Western Sony exclusive, and that it's too light on its RPG mechanics, it does embody the Final Fantasy ideal of always trying new things and always trying to reinvent itself. Jeremus added that it was cool to see series favorites like Chocobos and Icons living in a dark and gritty world. Miss Ragnarok even said that the game made them bawl their eyes out, making it a winner in their books. A. Moody added that they loved the story, the gameplay, and everything in between, and plans on getting the Platinum Trophy soon. And Alfredo adds that the game took high fantasy to an even higher level, with its truly spectacular icon battles, pushing the PS5 to its limits, and a true standout moment for this year in gaming. To add to what's already said, as a more old-school leaning player, I found the gameplay loop of Final Fantasy XVI, despite the many valid criticisms out there, to be so fun and engaging that I'm still playing it. And a recently released DLC just gave me yet another reason to come back to it. And while there are many and perhaps better action experiences of the year, shout out to Armored Core 6, Final Fantasy XVI and its characters, gameplay, story, and music all pushed me to be a better player, which is why it finds itself very high on this list of already incredible games. We've finally arrived at the top 3, and this is where it's going to get really interesting. Your 3rd best game of 2023 is The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Justin nominated Tears of the Kingdom because they somehow managed to fit an already massive open world game and added even more. Ben mentions that the building mechanics will bring out your inner child, with the story being a vast improvement to its predecessor. Logan says that Tears of the Kingdom encapsulates the best of both traditional Zelda and the Breath of the Wild model, with that adventurous and creative spirit present, which they've grown to love. Ross rounds out the comments by saying that Tears of the Kingdom absolutely knocked it out of the park again. And my 3rd best game of 2023, which is sure to confuse and probably anger some die-hard fans, is Baldur's Gate 3. Let's be real here. Out of every game on this list, none have the same amount of choices and ways to interact with the world as Baldur's Gate 3. I knew even before setting foot in its world that this was gonna be a massive undertaking, with friends reporting hundreds upon hundreds of hours, playing and replaying through the story, and making different choices as they progressed through the game. And admittedly, there were nights that I'd stay up playing the game on my Steam Deck and PS5 via remote play, that kept me up much later than I would have liked. I labored through so many choices that I often found myself just restarting the game multiple times because I just wanted to see everything. That said, I consider Baldur's Gate 3's inclusion in my top 3 to be a huge deal, and its overall inclusion in any list of best games of the year to be proof positive of how its innovations will affect the genre moving forward. We're winding down to the top 2 game of 2023, and this game is what you've chosen: Baldur's Gate 3. I want to recognize how influential this game is that it comes up as your second best game of 2023 on a channel that mostly covers JRPGs. Justin nominated Baldur's Gate 3 and says that it's not only the biggest, most talked about RPG since Elden Ring, but it literally had game developers quaking in their boots. Liam says that the game is just a pinnacle of storytelling and fun, repeatable gameplay. Chad adds that they just want to go on crazy adventures with their wife, and Baldur's Gate 3 delivered on this. Chris adds that the game brought back the feeling of Friday nights, out of school, just fun and joyful gaming. And James says that Baldur's Gate 3 is truly a once-in-a-decade experience, thanks to its unparalleled commitment to player choice that provides a truly player-driven experience that will shape the gaming landscape for years to come. And my pick for second best game of 2023 is Star Ocean: The Second Story R. I normally approach remakes and remasters with a healthy bit of skepticism, if only because many of these typically add a dash of change here and there without really creating something meaningful to make these games ageless. But Star Ocean: The Second Story R went above and beyond everyone's expectations by not only altering its presentation from a static CG rendering to a fully 3D world, but also adding a ton of cool new quality of life features that makes playing the game feel better than the original. The moment I started the remake, I was immediately overcome with a healthy wave of nostalgia that reminded me a lot of why I love the second story to begin with. And to have a remake just reinforce those feelings and build upon them, making even better new memories, and you've got a brand new standard for JRPG remakes in this game. Before we get into your 2023 Game of the Year, my producer Chloe wanted me to remind you to become a $5 patron on the Backlog Battle Patreon. That $5 will give you early access to videos, polls, secret Discord channels, and behind-the-scenes posts. We're trying to reach $200 a month because that'll let us unlock discounted annual subscriptions. So help us keep the dream alive and sign up at patreon.com/backlogbattle. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, your pick for Game of the Year of 2023. Which just actually happens to be my pick for my Game of the Year as well. Our unanimous winner for Game of the Year of 2023 is Octopath Traveler 2. MJ nominated Octopath Traveler 2 because it is the perfect distillation of everything they love about JRPGs, and is the most rewarding gameplay experience they've had this year. Friends and Games on YouTube says that the sheer improvement from the original is just insane. Practically everything that was wrong with the original was rectified here. Waruida Show adds that the game never stopped being a blast to play, and that they won't forget its memorable cast anytime soon. Menon mentions that it's got the best soundtrack of any game released this year, along with great character interactions and storytelling that doesn't feel tedious, along with some insanely good combat, and so much more. To add to what's already said, Octopath Traveler 2 over-delivered in every single way that makes it such a better game than the original. The fantastic voice acting, the huge explorable world, the Industrial Revolution setting, the music, the lore that connected everything, and I mean everything, together. These are just some of the things that make Octopath Traveler 2 our Game of the Year. And I want to stress how incredible this year has been for games in general. So if there are any games on this list that you haven't played yet, I urge you to check them all out. There's a pinned comment down below that has my reviews and links for purchase for your convenience. On behalf of every single person who has liked, shared, and subscribed to the channel, thank you very much for making this year's Backlog Battle Awards once again a truly memorable one. And make sure to keep an eye out on New Year's Eve for a massive supercut of games featuring 173 titles that released in 2023 that you can all experience all in one 7-minute video. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.